Good morning, Opening Pathways viewers. It's Tom LeNoble. Welcome to another episode of Opening Pathways. Today I have Connie Kwan with me today, and Connie is the CEO of Spark AI, and she's written a book she'll likely tell us a little bit about. We're here to learn a little bit about her business and a lot about Connie. Connie, welcome to Opening Pathways.
Thank you, Tom.
It's great to have you here. Let's start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on, and most importantly, what sparked your idea to start it.
I'm working on a book this year called Story Habits, and my background's in technology. So the fun question is why are you writing a habit book? And the reason is I worked at one point as the chief product officer for a company that helped people quit smoking. So had the front row seat to the Olympics of habit change, which is, a combination of chemical addiction, social reinforcement, and really an identity piece. Because smokers think, I'm a smoker, so they really own that. And I had a chance to help folks who are wanting to quit successfully do that with 2x the success rate in clinical trials. So I'm very big fan of using technology for good, and I'm very happy that me and my team were able to leverage technology to help people change the behavior that they want to. Now, fast forward 7 years from that, I taught a class called Storytelling for Product Managers in that time. And so about 3 years ago, the two things kind of collected in my brain, kind of collided in my brain of, behavior change and stories, and how stories really create the engine for our ability to change our behavior. It is the why before everything else. So I started working on this workshop with folks, and it's really gaining some traction. People are finding it helpful for them to rethink and rewrite their story so that they can rewrite their habits. So that's the genesis of what I'm
Good,
working on.
good.
Just like
So tell me this, with story habits and this journey you've been on, where was the moment and what happened when you said to yourself, I know this is it, this is my path?
uh, it's a long time coming. I I think my identity is very much rooted in building products, and it still is to some degree. Like I still build products. But along the way, I started doing storytelling. I started rebranding myself as, teaching storytelling. And I had a framework for that, but it wasn't I think it didn't find as much resonance. Like I had students and I taught hundreds of people through the storytelling program. Um, but it didn't have as much resonance as this. Like when the story habits one came into my head and I started running the workshops, I immediately had more reaction. Like folks were like, oh yeah, this makes sense. They walk out of the 1 hour workshop with something tangible that they feel true resonance with. So that signaled to me that, this is what I'm called to do. Like this that I was working on. And as everyone knows, writing a book is a lot of work and not a lot of reward other than it's a really cool business card. But it's a lot of work leading up to that. And so you really have to love it, right? And so for years, I was like, I need to write the book for the class that I teach. But that never happened. And now I'm spending energy on writing this one, even though this is much newer, because I think this is my true passion is when I'm in a room with folks and I help them talk through what is the habit how do we anchor your habit in the value that you already own and unlock that for them. So one example is I was working with a CEO of a company. She actually built a company, sold it for millions, and then started another company. So this is a woman who is extremely accomplished, very strong willpower, right? Able to just get stuff done. And one thing that she was working on is not stealing fries from her husband's plate. Which I'm like, well, why is that so hard? And she's like, yeah, I want to be healthier, so I think I should not do that. And so we dug deep. We went down. We're like, okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about you. I use a fake name, Rachel, right? So I'm like, Rachel, let's talk more about you. Like, what is it about the fries that really bothers you? And she thought a little bit more. She's like, yeah, there's a health thing, but you know what? I also don't like how I'm being manipulated by food companies. And they make these fries super addictive. I eat one and I have to take the next one. And I don't like that. I think, she's at heart an activist. That's why she started her first company, and that's why she's starting her second. Like, they're very activism-based companies. And so I'm like, oh, you know what, Rachel, you're an activist. So really, these fries are like manipulation fries. And she's like, yeah, that's right, they're manipulation fries. And so we had this conversation. It was 15 to 20 minutes. After that, I'm like, okay, well, every time you steal these fries and you eat them, you're supporting this system. You're eating manipulation fries. She's like, okay. So 2 weeks later, she calls me back. She's like, Connie, you know what? I've been going for years trying to quit eating these fries. All of a sudden, I stopped because I don't want to be manipulated. And my husband started ordering small fries because she's not stealing them. So, it's just transformational when we can hook it up to the right pathways in our mind of how we are programmed and how we see the world. And when our identity and our habits are aligned with that, it's so natural to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And
so now we're going to find
it's aligned.
Yeah. So now we're going to find out some things about you, Connie. So I'd like to know what personal values have guided you from the start, and has one deepened since you've been working on story habits?
Yes. I like to talk about this example where I try to eat less dessert. So I'm trying to reduce by 30%. And I asked, okay, what are some values that I hold? Well, one is that I'm a frugal person because I'm an immigrant. My parents are immigrants. I'm an immigrant twice. So it just is baked into me, right? So I said, okay, you know what? I'm only going to eat expensive desserts. So when I go down to the Mademoiselle Colette and I eat the $10 slice, one single slice of cake, I'm like, ooh, this is a lot. It seems really expensive to pay for a cake for $10 when for $10 you can buy a whole cake at the Safeway, right? But that's what I'm going to do. I'm only going to expensive dessert. But it has a natural controlling effect for me because now, okay, I'm only going to eat that maybe once every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. I might go back down there, right? Because I have this natural control given my values. And it's not going to work for somebody else who doesn't hold this value. They'll just have a very expensive dessert habit if they go this path. But for me, it totally works. So, I started really understanding, okay, what are some of my values and how can I leverage them to accomplish what I'm trying to do? I started also understanding, why do I make certain decisions in my life? Like, what is that anchored on? So, for example, I'm high on freedom. I highly value freedom and I highly value fun. And I'm also a very curious person. So between those things, I love travel. I like to go see new places. I like working at new companies because I go up that learning path. So if I look back on my life, I'm like, why did I make the choices that I made? And now it's connecting the dots with, it's because this is how I'm programmed. Because I value freedom, I value curiosity, I value fun. And so I ended up doing things like improv. Like that kind of naturally drives me. And I love when I work with folks, I get to see, we talk through values, right? And we talk through what they're trying to accomplish. And in conversations, I start noticing, this person highly values family or highly values commitment to self. I talked to one lady a couple of days ago. She was like, I'm trying to run more, and I'm anchoring it on commitment to self. Basically, she's like, if I decide I'm going to do it, I must finish it. Like she told me the example of running the marathon, and because she was running the half marathons and she committed to doing it, even though she was injured, she dragged herself through the finish line with the injury, and now she's like regretting it because she's still experiencing that injury years later. She's still, managing it. And she said, I should have chosen something different, but she couldn't choose something different because she is such a high commitment to self person that she put her mind to something, it feels like failure if she didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so she's recognizing, okay, sometimes it's pros, sometimes it's cons. And she's like, okay, maybe I want to adjust that habit, right? Maybe give myself more grace, give myself, when it's the right moment to not be so stuck on going to the finish line if it's not appropriate for that thing. But we're wired how we are. And it's interesting to observe kind of the
Yeah.
effects of because of how it's wired.
So, Connie, one of the things I've learned on this podcast is almost everyone, there is someone or someone's in their early lives that planted the seeds of who they became today. Who is that for you?
Into the seeds. So many influences. My grandmother on my dad's side, she her life story inspires me. I think I grew up with her in the house, and she was not super interactive with me. Um, but I know the life she went through because she was married to a blind man because she was a sold bride, basically. Like, her husband's from a slightly wealthier family, not super wealthy, and he needed to find a wife, and she's from a very poor family. So she was married into this family, and her husband is blind. Now, the Chinese Revolution happened, and they ran away from China, from Guangzhou, and ran to Hong Kong, like with the clothes on their backs and nothing else, and kids in tow. So a number of my uncles and aunts I never met. Like they just disappeared or died at childbirth or what have you. She had 9 children, and half of them are not surviving children. I never met them. So I can't even imagine. Like I never had the firsthand experience of talking to her about it because, there's a generational gap and I was very young. Um, but I can only imagine what that was like. And, she ran away, and then in Hong Kong, like, her husband did not have anything to offer really. So she had to manage everything. She got a license to have a shop on the street. So in Hong Kong back in that day, you can get a license to operate a shop on the street, like a food store on the street. And you can make money that way. And there's limited number of licenses for that. So you can apply to get one of those. And she managed to get one of those, and she would operate that shop. And with that shop, she raised her kids. She, kept her husband alive. Her husband had a little bit of money made from being a fortune teller, because you can be a blind person and be a fortune teller. And so they survived. They survived the immigration basically, but it's really just running away. And she raised her whole family there. So I have a lot of respect for what she went through and she just was like a tough cookie, And
Love
I'm
that.
just like, I came from that stock, right? Like, I feel like I'm much softer now because I grew up in a much nicer environment. But I really respect what she did to allow me to have the opportunities that I have now.
Right. Where has life asked you to slow down recently, and what did you hear?
Uh, Once in a while, the body gets sick, and that's when it says, okay, slow down. Um, I, After COVID, I have some long COVID symptoms that I'm still working through right now. And so it's been really hard because I can't, I can't go 110% the way I always did. And I have this extra project. And for a long time, I just didn't think of it. It became a 110% project, right? The health piece. And now I'm like, I need to count it in as one of the balls I'm juggling. So for the last 5 years or so, I've been experimenting with different solutions, different medicine, different interventions to try and figure out this health issue that I have. But the doctors have been limited in terms of help because they say it's allergies, so you just have allergies. Okay, but it's not. I mean, it is, but it's not. You know what I mean? So it's like really tough because nobody has the answer. And so, as you know, in like US healthcare, you are on your own to figure out your own path. Unless it's like you have cancer and then there's a very clear, like there's a lot of people working on that problem. For the majority of health issues, which are like not life and death and more just impacts your quality of life, they don't know. They don't have time to debug for you. And so one is on their own to debug. And so I'm trying to figure it out. So I think that is making me say, oh, okay, well, you need to take a step back and
Yeah.
and focus on that and at least count that as a project, you know?
Yes, it is a project. I know a few friends that have been impacted by it. So tell me this, how has your relationship with risk changed since you went on this story habits adventure?
A relationship with risk. It's an interesting question, Tom. I would consider it a high risk endeavor, right? The low risk endeavor is to get the classic job and work that job. It's what I know, it's what I've done. And writing a book is a very uncertain path. It's a lot of energy and passion into something that might not yield anything. So it's a very high risk. Yeah. But I think I'm lucky to have the stability uh, of, I think it's a privileged place to be able to take risk. I see a lot of folks who are like, oh, I'm starting a company or being a startup founder. And yeah, that's all very hard. But at the same time, most people can't take that risk until they have a certain level of financial stability or their family gives them that stability or their partner gives them that stability. And so I at the same time of, oh, I'm taking a lot of risk and that makes me uncomfortable, I also keep going back to, wow, I'm very privileged to be able to take that risk.
Yeah, good, good. How does Connie decide when to pivot or push through?
When to pivot or push through? That's an interesting question. Um, I don't know that there's a methodology specifically. It's sort of a embodied wisdom over time that I gain from knowing when. I think I don't decide to pivot or push through in that moment. I think what I've learned is to take a nap or sleep on it and then come back and make that decision. That's probably uh the one thing I learned from having lived a while. I used to pivot or push through more quickly. And there are some decisions that I made that I'm like, ooh, I should have just stayed. I should have pushed through. I should have continued. And I pivoted too soon. So,
Uh,
you know, it's not, I don't know how that other life would have played out. So it's hard to say, oh, I definitely made the wrong decision. Um, but at the same time, if I was to do it over again, I might have slept on it some more. So, um, yeah, does that
yeah, good.
doesn't directly answer the question, but it's
It was a great answer. So tell me this, how do you know when fear is information and not a stop sign?
how do I know if fear is an information on a stop sign? It almost always is a fear, is a information on a stop sign. There are very few fear instances where, in modern life, at least, in a safe community, there are very few fears that are life-threatening. It's not the lion trying to eat us, right? There, if I'm in a bad neighborhood at 10 p.m., like I should not be there at all. But if I am there, then maybe the fear, I should act on that fear and and get out of that situation, right? I would turn that fear on as a real signal. But most of the time, there's a lot of fear around, I think right now, a lot of fear around social anxiety in post-COVID, right? In some of our kids, there's a higher degree of that with remote work and less direct interaction, with a lot of time spent on media, on our screens. There's just less natural interaction with other people than even 10, 20 years ago. And I think there's more fear of that, which is a discomfort. I would say a lot of fear is more of a discomfort, and it's worth pushing through and kind of just letting it be, oh, okay, I just need to get used to it. It's like, I'm scared because I'm not used to it, you know? Like, I'm scared I find if I just keep repeating the same action, I would eventually get used to it and I wouldn't fear it at all. And I can be with other people who do it daily and watch them. And when I see them go through that motion calmly, that always helps me know that, oh, okay, this is how I can move through that action. Like if cold calling is scary for people. Getting on stage is scary for people, right? So if I want to overcome that fear, then I just do it more. Or I sit with other people who are also cold calling next to me, and we each go through, 50 calls a day, cold calling people. And eventually it's just normalized. It's like, oh, okay, this is how it's going to happen. You can cold call 50 people. 40 of them are going to hang up on you angrily and say no. And 10 of them might chit chat with you and 2 of them might buy something. Okay. That's the pattern. And then you use to the pattern and you don't get upset over, oh, well, the 40 people you're expected to say no to you, done. Right. And
Yeah.
if I'm with other people who do it, then it becomes a normal thing. Like if I got on stage and give talks, I'm around other people who get on stage and give talks. It's a normal thing. Oh yeah, you get a little sweaty before you get on, you do your singing exercises backstage and then you hop on there, you do your thing and then you come back down. That's normal. Right? And that's why I think, people go to schools, take classes for things because they want to be with other humans. I think the main benefit is normalizing the tough thing. That's one. And then 2, being with other humans who has their chemistry more dialed in performing that activity that's probably high anxiety. And because their chemistry is dialed in, we're really good at picking up other people's reactions and chemistry, right? So if you're in a room with people who freak out, then you can't help but freak out. But if you're in a room with people who are also calm, then you can't help but absorb some of that calm. So yeah, I think that's part of it, is if you can borrow also from people who have done it and therefore are calm through that motion, it really helps.
Yeah. So tell me this, Connie, what impact are you most proud of? Not personal, not publicly, not professionally, but personally. What impact are you most proud of personally?
Personally, give me an example.
Well, some people, they're proud of their children. They're most proud that they raised children. Some people, it's a variety of things. It's not about your public image that I'm talking about or your professional image. It's about you personally and impact you have made.
Hmm. Personally, it's quite a few. So, I have a few to choose from. I travel with my family a lot. We go like 3 months a year, and it's just something I wanted to do. So it took a lot of time to convince, like 10 years, convince my husband to do this with me. And then we had to figure out the whole logistics with the kid and everything. And we write about it online on
Huh?
Substack. So it's just a Substack for friends and family. It's just so that
I love
it's more of a diary for us. But interestingly, I'm in some professional women's groups, what have you, and I talk about that because, I'm just passionate about it. I'm excited about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I just went here and it's so fun. Um, and they started following my blog, and they tell me that, oh wow, I'm so inspired by what you're doing. Like, I want to live your life. Like, I'm living vicariously through you, and I love getting your updates. And I did not expect that. I'm like, this is entirely something for me. I feel like this is a selfish thing that I'm doing that I want to do because it's important to me. But it had the trickle effect of other people feeling inspired and wanting to do it, and also like wanting to know how I done it. So that's been very gratifying, I think, just, knowing that even a small action, like something you're doing for yourself, sometimes gets other people excited.
Yes, it does. It does. It's interesting, right? Because people that don't get to do it can see it and be inspired by it. So tell me this, Connie, what boundary has become essential to your sustainability?
Mm, agree. Sleep. I must get enough sleep. Yeah. And I started taking naps too during the day. I find that the best hours, if you read a lot of books about productivity and optimization, the best hours of the day are 10 a.m. to noon, assuming you wake up around 8 or 7, something like that, right? So about 2 hours after waking up is like peak brain power. And you get about 2 hours of that. And then in the afternoon, after lunch, then you're like, slump, and then you kind of drag on and make the rest of the day happen. Now, it's not completely unproductive, but the most highest brain power work has to be done within the first 4 hours of the day. So what I started doing is taking a nap in the middle of the day. So I ended up with 2 days in one day, is how I see it, because I get the 4 hours again after I wake up from a nap. So that has been, if I can at all, and that's one of the great reasons to work at home, is then I have the flexibility to control my schedule. And if I can control my schedule such that I get that break in the middle of the day with an actual nap, it's like 20 minutes to 1 hour, depending. I literally get 2 days out of one, which is such an amazing hack.
Yeah. My mom used to take a nap every day, Connie, and it was funny as I got older, I realized we wanted her to take that nap because she became a totally different person after that nap, for sure. I'm not a nap. I never have been good at it. So tell me this, since starting Story Habits, what have you learned about trust?
Mm, I've learned to trust the process and trust that if I put in the work, something will happen out of it. And it might not be the fruits that I expect. You know, if I work a job, the fruits are very clear. They tell you what the fruits are going to be at the end of that job, and you show up and you do it. I think with this, there's a little bit more variability in what that would look like. One fruit is you and I having this conversation today, and that wouldn't have happened if I wasn't working on Story Habits. So I consider that a happy outcome of this work. And for me, a very gratifying fruit. So I don't know what the fruits will be. I just have to trust that if I put in the work and do the work, that one, I believe this methodology needs to be in the world, so I want people to know about it. And I have to trust that that would lead to good things for me and for others.
Wonderful. So tell me this, what's your big vision for what's coming up for Connie?
My big vision. Well, there's what I would like to have happen. And then there's the trust aspect of I don't know what's going to happen and just going with it, going with the flow. But what I would like to do is uh, get on a TED stage and share this methodology with more people. I would like to have the opportunity to coach and work with individuals and also teams, working on team habits. I'm working on an app so that more people can access it without actually having to book time with me. They can just use the app to use the methodology. So those are my aspirations and what I plan to do. But I don't know. I almost don't know what I don't know. So I'm trying to stay open to the possibilities.
What does renewal look like for Connie besides just rest or a day off? What renews you?
Going back to basics. I for a long time I like camping. Now is traveling, but both are a little bit back to basics in that when I'm camping, I don't have the running water, I don't have the electricity. Um, Everything's very simple. And I like that because when I come back to running water, I really appreciate it. And same with traveling. We have just one suitcase of we travel super light, like hand carry, basically hand carry suitcase, and that has to include some snorkeling gear in there. So literally, I will have 5 outfits, and then we would try and figure the rest out. Like we'll have snacks that we carry with us, and everything is super simple again. And so I think that resets me because I think I have so much in my life and I don't appreciate it unless I don't have it sometimes. So I like to reset by going back to basics and then suddenly realizing, oh wow, it's so great. All this infrastructure we have isn't great. I go to countries where there's no sidewalks. I come back to the US, I'm like, oh wow, we have sidewalks. It's amazing. There are countries where the sidewalk is like a hole on the side, like the sewer, it's open. So you can, if you step in the wrong place, you fall into that. So you have to watch everywhere you go, right? And then I come back to the US, I'm like, wow, we have built this amazing infrastructure. We have all this that's free to us. I mean, it's paid with our taxes, but for the individual, it's basically accessible and free. And it's just, wow, what an amazing thing that we get here. So it's good for me, the reset is not taking things for granted and going back to basics so I can relearn that lesson.
Yeah. So tell me this, what does legacy mean to Connie at this stage of your life?
I never thought about legacy before, Tom. I'm very in the present moment person. So I mean, I define legacy as I understand is like, how will I be remembered after I'm gone? And I guess I'm not super focused on that. I'm trying to be remembered now, like to be helpful to the person in the room with me now and to have that moment with the person I have now and not worry too much about how will I be remembered or, like I hope it's good. But I think if I do the right things, it'll be good, but I don't even spend energy thinking about it. Like I don't really care what my epitaph says. I think there are cultures where when a person dies, they put them in a scaffold up on the hill and the birds eat them and it goes back to nature. Like that is actually their ritual to do that. I think it's like in the Himalayas somewhere they do this. So I'm kind of that mindset. Like, oh, I'm borrowing all the pieces, all the carbons in my body right now are mine, sort of. And I'm borrowing these carbons. At some point, these carbons will go back. And I'm just trying to enjoy the moment now and not worry too much about what's after me.
I love that. I love that. Borrowing the carbons right now. Yes. So tell me this, if a very, very young Connie were watching this podcast we're recording, what would you tell her?
Oh, I would tell her to sleep on it before pivoting. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love that. So Connie Kwan from Story Habits and Spark AI. Tell us again a little about Story Habits and Spark AI and how we can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Story Habits you can find, I have a Substack actually that will have content kind of before the book gets published. That Substack is my name, conniekwan.substack.com. And my book has a site, storyhabitsbook.com. And then all the other work I'm doing presently is on my main website, just conniekwan.com.
Wonderful. Connie Kwan, thank you for being on Opening Pathways today.
Thank you, Tom. It's such a lovely time to share with you here.
Yes, yes. And to my viewers, this is Tom LeNoble. I'll see you next time.